Have you ever been that person in your family? The one they just couldn't see clearly? The one whose dreams they dismissed with those subtle head shakes and patronizing smiles? Deep breath. My name is Jessica Rivera, and I'm 30 years old. 3 years ago, my sister stood in front of our entire extended family and called me a lovable loser. Today, I own a tech company valued at over $200 million. But this isn't just another rags to riches story. This is about what happens when the person your family wrote off as a failure suddenly holds the power to change all their lives. When the quiet girl with the cute hobby pulls up to the family reunion in a fire engine red Lamborghini Huracan, not as a flex, but as proof that sometimes the path everyone tells you not to take is exactly the one you should. If you've ever felt overlooked or underestimated by the people who should have believed in you most, stick around. Because revenge isn't served cold when it comes to family, it's served with interest. If this already resonates with you, hit that like button and subscribe. I post new family karma stories every week, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. I grew up in a rickety two-bedroom ranch on the outskirts of Dayton, Ohio. The kind of place where the kitchen linoleum curled at the edges, and the heating bill determined how many layers we wore to bed in winter. Dad spent 3 decades working the night shift at a plastics plant, hands perpetually stained with industrial residue no amount of scrubbing could remove. Mom juggled school secretary work with a coupon clipping wizardry that somehow kept four mouths fed on a budget that should have fed two. And then there were us kids, a perfect case study in family dynamics. My older sister Amanda was the crown jewel. Straight A student, yearbook editor, debate captain, and later pre-med superstar. Every Rivera milestone felt scripted to highlight Amanda's glow. My younger brother, Luis, was the designated baby, adorable enough to soften mom's temper even when he microwaved forks or tried skateboarding off the roof. And me? I was the quiet one. Jessie with her tinkering, Dad called me. I could take apart our broken VCR at 12 and rebuild it by 13. While other kids played video games, I was figuring out how they worked. By 15, I'd built my first computer from parts salvaged from neighborhood garage sales. But nobody gives medals for resurrecting obsolete electronics in working class Ohio. While Amanda collected honor cords and scholarship offers, I collected strange looks in the phrase, "That's interesting, Jesse." The unspoken hierarchy was clear at every dinner table. Amanda's future was bright and certain. Luis was lovable and protected. I was, well, a question mark. Not failing exactly, but not excelling in any way the family recognized as valuable. I remember one night during my junior year when Amanda burst through the door waving her early acceptance letter to Johns Hopkins. Mom made her favorite meal, pot roast with those little pearl onions. Dad called his brother in Cleveland just to brag. I sat quietly, picking at my food, wondering if anyone would notice if I disappeared. "What's with the face, Jessie?" Amanda asked, passing the gravy. "When you get into college, if you apply yourself more, we'll celebrate you too." That quiet condescension hurt worse than outright criticism. It was the gentle pat on the head that said, "We've measured your potential, and it's adequate." Senior awards night changed everything. While Amanda swept half a dozen scholarships, I lingered backstage, wrestling nerves. One teacher had secretly nominated me for the Regional Innovators Prize 2000 and an internship, based on a rudimentary phone app I'd coded to translate sign language into text. When my name echoed through the auditorium, I froze. Amanda's friends clapped politely. Dad blinked in surprise. Mom's smile seemed uncertain, as if waiting for further instructions. Backstage afterward, Amanda draped an arm over my shoulder and whispered with an indulgent smile, "Cute hobby, Jessie, but don't ditch college for your little gadgets, okay?" I laughed it off, yet something inside me shifted. It was the first time I questioned the script that had been handed to me. Jessica the invisible, Amanda the inevitable. I enrolled at Ohio State because it made Dad proud. But 2 semesters in, I spent more time in the campus startup incubator than in lecture halls. A prototype for an AI-driven inventory tracker landed me meetings with 3 angel investors. When one offered a modest seed check, $50,000 in exchange for 12% equity, I made the most reckless, exhilarating decision of my life. I withdrew from college and moved to Austin, Texas, where living costs were manageable and the tech scene forgiving. Have you ever made a decision that felt absolutely right to you, but looked absolutely wrong to everyone who loved you? That space between conviction and doubt is the loneliest place in the world. Dad's reaction came in clipped baritone. A person finishes what they start. 3 generations of Rivera men had worked jobs they hated to support families they loved. Breaking that chain felt like betrayal. Mom cried into a dish rag, not dramatically, but with that quiet disappointment that cuts deeper than rage. We just want security for you, Mihija. Amanda FaceTimed me from her dorm at Johns Hopkins, white coat already monogrammed with A. Rivera, MD, in anticipation. Dropping out? She scoffed. Huge mistake. Real jobs don't hire quitters. Even Luis, still in high school, raised an eyebrow. Sis, are you sure? I told them I'd return for Christmas with good news. They said, don't come home empty-handed. The unspoken message was clear: prove us wrong or admit we were right. The romanticism of startups evaporates quickly under fluorescent co-working lights and the smell of stale ramen. My co-founder, a brilliant systems engineer named Priya Shah, and I spent 14-hour days arguing over architecture diagrams, pivoting, pitching, pivoting again. Investors loved the concept but hated the margins. By month 9, we were down to $1,200 in the bank, enough for rent or payroll, not both. One night, we climbed to the roof of our dingy complex to watch bats swirl around Congress Avenue Bridge. Priya shivered in the sticky heat and said, we could quit, get jobs, maybe finish degrees. I traced constellations in the hazy sky and replied, if we bail now, the story ends with, they almost made it. Let's keep going until the universe itself tells us no. She laughed. Fine, but the universe better speak up fast. I didn't tell Priya about the family voices echoing in my head. Amanda's dismissive smile, Dad's furrowed brow, the tightness in my chest every time I checked my dwindling bank account. Christmas came and went. I couldn't afford the flight home. I sent Amazon gift cards and hollow promises. Next year will be different. Mom called on New Year's Eve. Amanda's been accepted to a prestigious residency program, she reported proudly. Then, voice softening. And you? Are you eating enough? I lied and said business was promising. In reality, I'd pawned my laptop and was coding on a borrowed machine. If you're still watching, hit that like button if you've ever felt that desperate determination, knowing you might fail, but refusing to quit. Comment below if you've had family doubt your choices when you needed their support most. 2 weeks later, the universe did speak, just not clearly. A mid-sized logistics firm piloted our tracker. Results: a 28% reduction in missed shipments over 30 days. Another chain signed on. By year 2, we were clearing $40,000 in monthly recurring revenue, enough to hire staff, upgrade laptops, and, crucially, pay ourselves. I called home. Mom sounded relieved but cautious. Dad muttered, steady paychecks beat. Fairy dust. Amanda, now a second-year med student, texted me an emoji of crossed fingers, supportive, but still waiting for the other shoe to drop. For Thanksgiving that year, I couldn't afford airfare, so I spent it with Priya's family, learning to fold samosas and playing carom. Her parents treated me like a beloved cousin, curious, maybe skeptical, but never dismissive. I realized that night how intoxicating respect can be when you've hungered for it your whole life. 18 months later, everything changed in 48 hours. A Fortune 500 retailer's warehouse blaze, faulty wiring, not ours, made national news when investigators cited lack of real-time inventory visibility as a compounding factor. Our tiny startup, Helix Track, suddenly became the darling of every supply chain blog. A reputable VC firm wired $7.5 million in Series A funding within 3 weeks. My ownership stake, 46% post-dilution, was worth nearly $6 million on paper. I sat alone in our new office after the wire cleared, staring at my bank account on the screen. The numbers felt unreal, like Monopoly money or a video game score. Not because I couldn't believe we'd succeeded, but because I'd spent so long bracing for failure. On closing day, I indulged in exactly one frivolous purchase: a used 2017 Lamborghini Huracan, Rosso Corsa Red, gleaming like a fever dream. More than a car, it was a tangible rebuttal to every smirk and eye roll I'd swallowed. The salesman handed me the keys with a knowing smile. First one? I nodded, throat tight. They all buy them for the same reason, he said, not unkindly. Whoever told you that you couldn't? This is for them. I wanted to deny it, claim some practical purpose, but he was right. Every time I pressed the ignition, the engine's roar drowned out the echoes of doubt I'd carried since childhood. Amanda's whispered, cute hobby. Dad's guarded optimism. The collective Rivera assumption that I was destined for mediocrity. I planned to drive it to the next family gathering, Christmas maybe, or Dad's birthday. The image of their faces as I pulled into the driveway sustained me through countless 18-hour workdays. But life, dramatic as ever, postponed that chance. At 3 a.m. one Sunday, my phone buzzed. Luis. Mom had collapsed at church, chest pains, hospitalized. I booked the first flight to Dayton, car keys accidentally still in my pocket. In the fluorescent ICU lounge, Amanda strode toward me, stethoscope around her neck, scrubs immaculate. She'll be okay, she reported briskly. Mild cardiac event, lifestyle changes required. Dad sat slumped in a vinyl chair, looking older than I remembered. Luis paced, scrolling through WebMD articles. We were Rivera children again, roles intact despite the years. Amanda the competent one, Luis the worried one, me the afterthought. Seeing Amanda in full doctor mode, competent, respected, valuable, stung. I was still quirky Jessica in family lore, despite the commas now decorating my bank balance. But anger felt pointless beside Mom's frailty. When I finally entered Mom's room, her smile illuminated everything. The harsh hospital lighting couldn't. Mihija, she whispered, reaching for my hand. You came. The surprise in her voice gutted me. Had I really been so absent she doubted I'd show up when it mattered? For 3 days, I slept in the visitor's chair, fielding work calls in the hallway, watching Mom's color gradually return. Amanda coordinated with doctors. Dad brought clean clothes from home. Luis handled insurance paperwork. I existed, occupying space without clear purpose. On the fourth morning, Amanda cornered me by the coffee machine. Your company doing okay with you gone? I nodded. We have good people. Must be nice, she said, rubbing her eyes. 36 hours on shift had left dark circles. Some of us can't delegate saving lives. The old resentment flared, but something else flickered too. Recognition. Amanda looked exhausted, hollow. The golden child carried burdens I hadn't considered. Her path, while celebrated, came with expectations mine never had. That night, as Mom slept, I sat with Dad in the waiting room. I was going to drive the Lamborghini home for Christmas, I admitted. Show everyone I made it. Dad's weathered hand found my shoulder. We know you made it, honey. Maybe not how exactly, but we know. I decided the Lamborghini reveal could wait. Real vindication, I was beginning to learn, isn't a mic drop, it's peace of mind. Mom recovered. The cardiologist prescribed statins, low-salt meals, and stress management. Dad reduced his overtime. Life resumed its rhythm, but something had shifted in our family geometry. The crisis had reminded us of what mattered. And it wasn't job titles or bank accounts. If you're finding value in this story, please subscribe to the channel for more family karma stories like this one. Your support helps me keep creating content that matters. 6 months later, Amanda proposed a full-scale family reunion at Grand Lake St. Mary's, renting cabins so cousins could fish while adults reminisced. You'll come, right? She asked pointedly in our sibling group chat. Even busy CEOs need family. The phrasing, busy CEOs in sarcastic quotes, told me Amanda's old skepticism still simmered. Yet I RSVP'd yes. Priya, now my fiancé, insisted I go alone. They need to see the Jessica who grew from their soil. I'll meet them next time. That decision would prove fateful. As departure day approached, I vacillated between childish excitement and adult dread. part of me still craved that moment of validation. The gasps, the apologies, the admission that they'd underestimated me. Another part just wanted to be Jessica again, not the CEO or the success story. The night before leaving Austin, I sat in the Lamborghini's driver's seat in our garage, running my fingers over the steering wheel. The car represented everything I'd fought for: freedom, validation, success on my own terms. But it also represented something uglier. The part of me still hungry for approval, still wounded by old dismissals. Take it, Priya said from the doorway, reading my thoughts as she often did. Not to show off, to remind yourself how far you've come. I left Austin at dawn, 12-hour drive, windows down, V10 snarling like a mythic beast. With each mile marker, childhood memories surfaced: bike rides with Luis, helping mom in the garden, even Amanda teaching me to tie my shoes before kindergarten. Family is complicated that way. The same people who wound us also shape us. When I rolled into the gravel lot outside the rented lodge, conversation petered out. Little cousins swarmed me, transfixed by the scissor doors. Dad whistled softly. Mom clutched her heart, but in a good way. Louise slapped my back. Okay, Iron Woman. Amanda approached last, arms folded. Her husband, Dr. Nicholas Hale, hovered behind her. She flashed her orthodontist perfect smile and said loudly enough for nearby relatives to hear, "Nice rental, Jesse. At least you're not Ubering anymore." A titter rippled through the crowd. I'd rehearsed a dozen witty comebacks during the drive, but in that moment, I felt only teenage inadequacy resurfacing. The CEO vanished. The overlooked middle child returned. I shrugged, parked, and hauled my duffel to cabin 3, tail between legs. Inside, I texted Priya. She thinks it's a rental. Still sees me as the failure. Priya replied, then she's not looking hard enough. Her loss. But the sting remained. All the success, all the validation from investors and clients and industry peers, none of it armored me against my sister's casual dismissal. That night, I lay awake listening to cicadas through the screened window, wondering why I'd come. What was I hoping to prove, and to whom? The answer eluded me until dawn painted the lake gold, and with it came a revelation. I wasn't seeking Amanda's approval anymore. I was seeking release from needing it at all. That evening, kids roasted marshmallows while adults traded remember when stories around a crackling fire. Inevitably, the conversation turned to careers. Cousin Rosie bragged about her Etsy shop. Luis discussed a possible MBA. Uncle Sergio's wife detailed her promotion at the insurance firm. Amanda updated everyone on a groundbreaking cardiac study she'd joined at the hospital. Each achievement met with appropriate oohs and ahs. Finally, Uncle Sergio turned to me, marshmallow halfway to his mouth. So, what do you actually do nowadays, Jessica? Something with computers, right? Before I could answer, Amanda chimed in. She plays with drones and barcodes, right? She laughed, but no one joined her. Something inside me snapped, the stored-up static of years crackling to life. I stood, dusted sand from my jeans, and said softly, actually, we've re-engineered supply chain analytics for multinational corporations. Last quarter, we prevented $14 million in shrinkage across 3 continents. We're filing for IPO next spring. I sat. Silence. Flames popped. Amanda's cheeks reddened. She drew a breath, maybe to apologize, maybe to strike again, but Mom cut in. That's wonderful, honey. Dad nodded, emotions shining in eyes normally stoic as steel. Momentary vindication tasted sweet, but dessert hadn't been served yet. Next morning, a thunderstorm trapped everyone indoors. Board games devolved into gossip. I overheard Amanda telling Aunt Vicky near the coffee urn, she exaggerates. Startups crash all the time. That car's probably leased. The words weren't cruel in isolation, but delivered with that clinical condescension. They clawed old scars. I returned to cabin 3, opened my laptop, and drafted an email. Transfer $250,000 of Helix track shares into a custodial trust for Luis's future MBA. Donate $100,000 to the Dayton Free Clinic in Dad's and Mom's names. fund Amanda's cardiac study with $50,000 anonymously. I'd learned that the best rebuttal to pettiness is quiet generosity. Still, a petty part of me yearned for one theatrical reveal. Fate obliged. Throughout the day, I noticed subtle shifts in the family dynamic. Younger cousins asked about my work with genuine curiosity. Dad introduced me to his brother's new wife as my daughter, the entrepreneur. Even Nicholas, Amanda's husband, cornered me by the bait fridge to discuss investment strategies. Only Amanda maintained her skeptical distance, eyebrows perpetually arched whenever I spoke. The pattern was so familiar it almost comforted me, her need to diminish me as constant as her need to breathe. That afternoon, as rain finally cleared, I helped Louise set up the volleyball net. She's jealous, he said quietly, testing the tension on the ropes. Amanda, of what? You escaped the script, made your own rules. He shrugged. Some people can't stand when others rewrite the story they're so invested in. His insight startled me. When had my baby brother become so perceptive? I bumped his shoulder with mine. When did you get so smart? Always was, he grinned. Just quieter about it than you two. If my story resonates with you, please tap that like button. And if you've ever been in a similar situation with family members who couldn't see your potential, share your experience in the comments below. That evening, we gathered under a rented marquee for the official reunion dinner. Potluck, speeches, slideshow. Dad's turn at the mic drew tears. Toasts clinked. Then Amanda took center stage. Natural orator, as always. She thanked everyone for supporting Mom's recovery, praised family togetherness, sprinkled in self-deprecating jokes about hospital coffee. The crowd warmed to her practiced charm, nodding and smiling in all the right places. Finally, flashing that pristine smile, she looked my way and quipped, "And here's to my sister, Jessica. Proof you can drop out of college, flunk Thanksgiving attendance 4 years straight, and still crash the party in style. What a lovable loser." Laughter erupted, good-natured to most ears, but I heard the old sneer behind it. Something in my chest thrummed. I rose, nodded politely, and stepped outside into the humid night. Stars punctured the darkness above the lake. I breathed deeply, trying to untangle the knot of emotions: anger, hurt, resignation, and beneath it all, a strange calm. The lovable loser comment should have wounded me. Instead, it clarified everything. Amanda still needed me to be the family failure to maintain her position as the family success. My actual achievements threatened her narrative, so she dismissed them, diminished them, denied them. But I didn't need to play that role anymore. Luis found me on the dock, moonlight silvering the water. He offered a beer, condensation cold against my palm. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. "Just realizing something." "What's that?" "I've been waiting for permission to succeed. From her, from all of you, but I don't need it." He clinked his bottle against mine. "About time you figured that out." We sat in companionable silence, listening to laughter from the marquee. Tomorrow, I decided, would be different. Not because I needed revenge, but because I needed closure. The script needed an ending. For all of us. Back in cabin 3, I finalized the emails I'd drafted earlier, adding one crucial detail. The financial documents would be delivered to the main lodge at 10 a.m. sharp. Timing, as in comedy and revenge, is everything. Morning of departure, sunrise painted the lake a bruised purple. Amanda and Nicholas posed for selfies near the dock, the picture-perfect couple framed by nature's splendor. I tossed my duffel into the Lamborghini's passenger seat, engine idling. Kids gathered, parents too. The car's presence still commanded attention, its scarlet finish gleaming like a promise. I gestured to Amanda. "Want a ride to the highway?" She smirked. "I'll walk, thanks. I don't need midlife crisis wheels." I shrugged, climbed in, pressed Strada to Corsa. The engine's roar ricocheted off water and pine. Instead of pulling away, I eased forward and killed the ignition beside the main lodge. I popped the frunk, withdrew a slim binder, and called out, "Family meeting, 2 minutes." Curiosity overrides decorum every time. They assembled, uncles, aunts, toddlers clutching juice boxes. I handed Dad the binder, notarized documents of the will I'd rewritten the night before. Bullet points. 1. Rivera Scholarship Fund, $500,000 seed capital for local first generation college students. Second medical research grant, $50,000 annually to Amanda's lab in our late grandmother's name. 3. Trust for Luis, MBA tuition plus living stipend. 4. Perpetual fund for Dayton Free Clinic, $25,000 yearly. I hadn't intended a spectacle, yet here we were. Voices buzzed. Dad's hands trembled. Mom wept openly. Luis stood slack-jawed, processing the implications. Finally, Amanda, eyes glassy, whispered, You did this? I met her gaze. Lovable losers don't get to decide legacies. Older sisters do, remember? A gentle tease, not a dagger. And that's when it happened. Not a gasp, not a yell. Just silence so pure it rang. Amanda's jaw didn't simply drop, her entire posture wilted. Years of unchallenged superiority dissolved in that hush. This isn't a joke, she managed finally. The car isn't a rental, I said quietly. The company isn't a hobby, and I'm not the same kid you dismissed all those years ago. Dad cleared his throat, voice gruff with emotion. Honey, we can't accept. It's not a gift, I interrupted gently. It's an investment. In the family that raised me, flaws and all. Mom stepped forward, cupping my face and hands still rough from decades of housework. Mi tesoro, she whispered. We always knew you were special. Always. But we both knew that wasn't entirely true. They had seen potential in me, yes, but never this. Never the capacity to reshape all our futures with a signature. Never the ability to fund dreams larger than our cramped house and careful budget had allowed us to imagine. Amanda stood apart from the celebratory huddle, arms wrapped around herself as if suddenly cold. Her husband squeezed her shoulder, but she shrugged him off, eyes never leaving mine. I saw something shift in her expression, pride and shame battling for dominance. I need to speak with my sister, she announced suddenly. Alone. Within minutes, Amanda pulled me aside behind cabin 3, where wood smoke scented the air. I'm sorry, she blurted, voice small. You know, loser was a joke. Stupid joke. I was jealous. You made your own map while I clung to the one the family gave me. I exhaled months of tension. I spent years wanting you to validate me. But I realized success isn't revenge, it's freedom. If you still see me as a 12-year-old with a screwdriver, that's okay. I know who I am. She studied the gravel, towing pebbles. I want to know that person, too. She extended a hand. I pulled her into a hug. Healing rarely drops like lightning, it unfurls like dawn. That hug was first light. The funny thing is, she murmured against my shoulder, I always thought you had it easier. No expectations, no pressure. You could fail, and it wouldn't shatter everyone's image of you. And I thought you had everything, I admitted. The praise, the certainty, the path, all mapped out. We pulled apart, studying each other with new eyes. 30 years of misunderstanding began to unravel between us. Race you to the dock, she suggested suddenly, a glimpse of the girl who'd once taught me to skip stones surfacing through the poised doctor. Only if you're prepared to lose, I grinned. We took off running, awkward in our adult bodies, laughing like the children we once were. Back in Austin, life accelerated. Helix Track filed its S1. Shares opened at $32, closed day 1 at $57. Reporters called me the stealth supply chain savant. Priya and I married in a hill country vineyard, Amanda officiating. During her speech, she recalled senior awards night and admitted, voice cracking, for years I mistook Jessica's quiet for smallness. Turns out quiet is just her native language. I'm grateful she translated it for me. Today, the Lamborghini mostly gathers dust. I still drive it to the Dayton Free Clinic each Christmas, parking where kids can ogle. Every time I remember the moment its engine silenced a decades-old doubt. Vindication, I've learned, isn't about watching jaws drop. It's the calm that follows, the knowledge that you can build, give, forgive, and still keep building. It's driving home from a family reunion with the windows down, cicadas singing, and the universe finally whispering, "You did good, kid." The best revenge isn't showing them they were wrong about you. It's living so fully in your truth that their opinion no longer matters. Family wounds cut deepest, but they also teach us our greatest strengths, if we're brave enough to learn the lesson. If this story touched you, please subscribe to Family Karmic Revenge for more stories of vindication and healing. Remember, sometimes the people who should see your value most clearly are the last to recognize it, but that doesn't diminish your worth. What's your family redemption story? Share in the comments below, and let's build a community where being underestimated becomes our superpower.